Hello, I'm here to talk to you today about what, in my opinion, is probably one of the biggest issues facing us today, and it's outrage culture. The biggest cultural issue, I mean, by the way, but it's outrage culture, and this has always been a problem, although never to the extent that it is just now. I feel this is probably the worst the outrage culture has ever been, and it's outrageous. But it's obviously always been around. It's reached epidemic levels now, but it's always been around. And even as far back as the 1960s, with people like the Beatles, they experienced outrage culture. And when John Lennon, in March 1966, in an interview with the London Evening Standard, said these words: "Christianity will go, it will vanish and shrink. I needn't argue with that. I'm right and I will be proven right. We're more popular than Jesus now. I don't know which will go first, rock and roll or Christianity. Jesus was alright, but his disciples were thick and ordinary. It's them twisting it which ruins it for me." Now, that was brushed off in Britain, as we aren't intensely religious here, really. In America, however, it was republished in America on the 29th of July 1966 in a teen magazine type thing. Everybody in the southern states went berserk. There was the KKK threatened their show. It was unbelievable, but it was only for a few weeks. Like, there were record burnings. It was in a specific geographical region because they were intensely religious. It was in the Bible Belt. So it wasn't career ending as it probably would have been now had he said something about Islam now. But it wasn't career ending. They did an interview in which he kind of apologised, but it didn't get, the point I'm making is it didn't get brought up at every possible opportunity. Like, every time he had a new album out, or every time he tried to do something, the press didn't open with, "So what about those comments you made years ago?" There was outrage for a few weeks. The records were burned. The news stations, the radio stations were saying, "Oh, the Beatles, Jesus died for you, John Lennon," all this type of stuff. But it didn't destroy his career because the culture was different. The media were different. The media weren't as unethical as they are in their practices now, and the people were different. Like, even everybody in the Bible Belt wasn't going insane about this. It was a small number of people who were going totally mental and were getting a disproportionate amount of press coverage because they were going insane. But as I said, they did a press conference which addressed this, and he was asked directly about it. And I'll show you that clip now. I apologise for the bad audio quality. It was semi-professional in 1966 in what looks to me like a living room, but he strikes a good balance between not apologising to the mob and, like, explaining himself. Like, he doesn't apologise, but he explains the context and how the media had taken it out of context and reported it as if he was saying, "We're better than Jesus Christ himself," which he of course was not saying. The churches were losing their congregation at that time. He was pointing out a fact which was a fact. It was true. People were leaving religion, especially young people. They're still leaving religion. The church is shrinking, not growing. And they were turning to more pop culture type stuff, such as the Beatles, such as pop music, films, television. All these type of things were having more influence over the younger generation than religion was. And I'll show you the clip just now of this press conference.
If it had said television is more popular than Jesus, I might have got away with it. But as I just happened to be talking to a friend, I used the word Beatles as a remote thing, not as what I think, as Beatles as though those other Beatles like other people see us. I just said they are having more influence on kids and things than anything else, including Jesus. But I said it in that way. which is the wrong way. Yap, yap.
Well, some teenagers have said, have repeated your statements that the Beatles, I like the Beatles more than Jesus Christ. What do you think about that?
Well, originally I was pointing out that fact in reference to England, that we meant more to kids than Jesus did, or religion at that time. I wasn't knocking it or putting it down, I was just saying it as a fact. And it is true, especially more for England than here. You know, but I'm not saying that we're better or greater or comparing us with Jesus Christ as a person or God as a thing or whatever it is. You know, I just said what I said and it was wrong or was taken wrong, and now it's all this.
It is, of course, very different now, however. The press and the media class of this country and America, just the West in general, appear to have abandoned their ethical practices. They appear to have become totally out for themselves. And this is, in my opinion, because they fear their destruction. They don't have the courage of their convictions. They don't have belief in themselves. They are failing, and this is why they don't have the belief in themselves. Their numbers are going down all the time. They aren't in control anymore, and it's a case of when you corner an animal, its last resort is to fight you. This is what's happening. It's the Mahatma Gandhi quote. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. We are at the then they fight you stage, because the press don't care one iota whether they're reporting accurate information about the people about the subjects of their reporting or not. They do not care. As long as it ensures their continued hegemony, they are totally fine trampling over any reputation, any political campaign, anybody's income stream, like with the thing with PewDiePie. The Wall Street Journal, one of the most reputable news sources, supposedly reputable, who trawled through 6 months of his content, and PewDiePie puts out a video every day, found 2 minutes worth of clips that referenced Nazis, and they were jokes, they were clear jokes, and before they even published it, they sent it to Disney. This is a direct assault on PewDiePie's income. It's a direct assault on his position of power, his social reach. In an attempt to tarnish his reputation, they sent it to Disney because he had a contract with Disney and like a sponsorship, and who immediately cancelled it because obviously Disney, given Walt Disney's leanings, they didn't want to be tarred with the brush of, oh, someone made a Nazi joke, that's terrible, can you believe that? No, they didn't want to be tarred with that. So like obviously I understand their decision to pull their agreement with PewDiePie. However, the Wall Street Journal, I don't understand how on earth they can claim to be an objective and unbiased news source if they are acting like tabloids to people. They're acting like the Sun, the Scottish Sun, the Daily Record, the Daily Mail. These are not reputable sources. But the Wall Street Journal supposedly is. It's a highbrow newspaper. However, there's an example. But they'll trawl through years of your social media presence to find one example of wrongthink is enough for these people to write their defamation on you. The total character assassination, even with opinion necromancy, they're going back like 10 years, finding something you didn't like. Finding something you said a decade ago that they did not like personally on a moral level they found reprehensible. They then report it as if you believe it now, remove it from all context that could have been there in the first place, and publish this as if it's fact. That destroys reputations. It can lead to violence against people on the basis of you're immoral, you're evil. I saw it on BBC News because they're reputable. Obviously, they don't care. They don't care at all about the harm they're doing to people. I mean, this is so obvious that, like, I realised this when I saw it in an episode of SpongeBob, in which Mr. Krabs sets up the Krabby Chronicle and has SpongeBob write a load of libelous articles about people. and they end up getting real life repercussions and consequences. Children's TV programs are teaching us this lesson, and yet fully grown adults who are supposedly qualified and working in the media, they don't know this. This is ridiculous. There are so many examples of this that it's hard to pick one. Like the Milo Yiannopoulos thing, who he is a victim of like molestation, of sexual molestation from an adult when he was 13. A priest molested him. Now, the way he justifies this, which I think is immoral to take away from, the way he rationalizes it in his own head is, I was in control of that. Because he seems to me to not be the type of person who doesn't like to be in control. Now, the press reported that he said that on Joe Rogan's podcast, that he was in control, he was in charge, he was the one who initiated it. Whether that's true or not, it doesn't matter. The press reported that as he's okay with like boys being molested and he says it's fine. That is not true. That is not true what he said. That he said that. And another example, Donald Trump's just entire political campaign is one giant smear to provoke outrage in the masses. It's all done by the press to cause outrage within the public and ruin the credibility of whatever actor they are targeting, whatever person they are targeting with this total made up lies nonsense most of the time. Another example, Jack Maynard on the 2017 run of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here had to leave because of homophobic tweets from 3 years previous, which the press dug up and reported as if it was now. He had to leave a reality TV show because these unethical morons reported it as if he stands by everything he's ever said. If we were to go through everything all of these people have ever said, I'm sure there would be some sort of wrong think that should send them to the gulag. In reality though, none of these people should be sent to the gulag. None of these people should even be... This should not be brought up years after the statements have been made. This should not be the case. Another example that I will focus on is the notorious Sargon of Akkad Jess Phillips tweet. In 2016, she was running a campaign to essentially... It was to stop online harassment and bullying, apparent in name only. But apparently, if you read the small print, it was censorship of people that I don't like on the internet. Sargon saw this, was already blocked by Jess Phillips, knew that no matter what he said, no matter what arguments he made, they would not listen, none of the establishment would listen, tweeted at her, I wouldn't even rape you, because she had been saying that she was receiving rape threats from people online. That was the justification to censor the internet. Now he said, I wouldn't even rape you, which of course, horrible thing to say to somebody, not a nice thing at all to say to somebody. I would not have said it, and I think it's going to cause him problems for having said it. However, it's not a threat, it's not implication of a threat, it is not violent. The point of it is, the point he was making, and he has achieved in making it, because they're still talking about it 3 years later, is that the only way that these people will accept principled opposition to them is if it comes through unsavoury means, because then they can report it as, this is terrible, look at this horrible, horrible man, this bad, bad, evil man. But they won't accept it from principled, rational arguments from people, so that was his solution in the moment. I wouldn't have said it myself, I don't like that he said it, I would rather people didn't say horrible things to each other, but it's not a threat. This has now been brought up constantly by the media. At every interview I've seen of him giving in the run-up to his MEP candidacy, it's been brought up at least once, and I don't think that's reasonable given that it was 3 years ago, and it's nothing to do with the political campaign going on at the minute. Thomas Smith brought it up in the debate at MythCon in 2017. most of the interviews he gives, it gets brought up and it's, oh, why did you do that? Why did you do that? As if the previous interview wasn't enough. The previous reason that he gave wasn't enough, even though he gives the same reason all the time. It gets brought up as well to other people, like Gerard Batten has been asked that on numerous occasions. On Andrew Marr, on Sky News interview, at their press conference. It gets brought up all the time. And no one seems to be able to take in the answers that they've already given to these questions. I think that most of these people are paralysed by political correctness. Most of them apologise for things they've said online, for statements they've made, whatever. And the thing that wins is when you don't apologise to the mob. Never apologise to people who are acting in bad faith, who are just coming at you with demands of an apology on the grounds that they're offended by what you've said. You owe them nothing unless they're your personal friends. If one person who you know well enough comes to you and says, could you apologise to me? You hurt me there. That is different to many journalists demanding an apology from you, and if you don't apologise, smearing you in public. These smears are dangerous. These smears are dangerous. They radicalise people. They cause violence against the people who are being smeared in such a public manner, and it's unacceptable in a civilised society, in my opinion. Never apologise to the mob. They aren't here with good intentions. They aren't acting in good faith. They are only interested in exerting control over the individual being questioned. This is not fair in my opinion. The media are outrage merchants. They are the dirty, dirty smear merchants. And thank you very much for listening to this video today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, please subscribe if you're new, if you enjoyed what I'm doing. Share if you think my videos are correct, if they're on point. I'll leave you with this beautiful destruction of the dirty, dirty smear merchants. Thank you very much.
So what I want you to do is each one of you to do 1 minute on why you're running as an MEP for UKIP. Carl, you go ahead.
Because you guys are severely mismanaging the country. I mean, really, I'm just here to kind of mock the legacy media. Your numbers are going down every day, and our numbers are going up, right? Like combined, the YouTubers are getting like 30 million views a month. You're dying. And it's because do you know what your rating is on Trustpilot, business review site? 84% 1 star for the BBC, 59% 1 star for ITV, and 72% 1 star for Channel 4. I don't care what you say. You are just smear merchants. Not one of you can tell me what I believe. Not one of you knows. But all of the public know because they can go to my YouTube channel, Saga McCad, and just watch for themselves. I've been doing this for 5 years. I have nearly 1 million subscribers. Just go and have a look. I'm not answering your questions. I'm not apologising for anything. You dirty, dirty smear merchants. Get back.